सफलता एक एग्जाम है दोस्त, पाने के लिए मेहनत जरूरी है दोस्त. So students, all of you need to prepare for your exams as well as you have to keep hard working to get success in your exams. So students, welcome to M10 classes, and today we are going to read about respiration and excretion. So before starting this topic, I have a request to all. In one or two classes, this chapter live process will be completed. So next, I want to start a topic from physics, that it may be light or from electricity. So students, please comment in the comment box which topic do you need. So students, please like, share and subscribe, and also comment for any doubts if you have in the comment section. So let us start our topic, that is respiration. So what is respiration? All the cells require energy for its metabolic activities, and it is this energy is obtained from breaking down of glucose. And as you have already read that we get glucose from the process of nutrition. So by breaking this glucose we get energy. Now, different organisms use different ways to obtain energy from glucose. Now students, we have a flow diagram here for the breakdown of glucose by various pathways, and it may come in exams for a 3-mark question. You have to just draw the flow diagram and you can get 3 marks easily. Now see here, first of all glucose. Glucose, the formula is 6C6H12O6. It is a 6 carbon molecule, and in cytoplasm it first converts into an intermediate molecule which is pyruvate, this pyruvate. Now it can break down in different pathways. So it can have aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. What is aerobic respiration? That means the respiration that is carried out in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic respiration that is carried out in the absence of oxygen. Now see here, in the absence of oxygen, which means it is an anaerobic respiration which produces ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. Okay, and this is carried out in yeast. You have already read in class 8 regarding fermentation, and this fermentation is an anaerobic process, and in this process ethanol is formed along with carbon dioxide and energy. Next come to aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, that means it is in the presence of oxygen, the glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide, water and energy. And this process is carried out in mitochondria, and in this process the large amount of energy is produced. And the next one is the lack of oxygen that happens in your muscle cells. So, students, you might have observed when you suddenly start running, your muscles get cramps. Now, why do your muscles get cramps when you run suddenly? Now, suppose during respiration there is a continuous flow of oxygen through the help of blood to the different parts of the body. Now suppose when you start running suddenly, your muscle cells will take more amount of oxygen to produce more amount of energy that will help to run faster. Now, suddenly the supply of oxygen cannot be faster. So there will be a lack of oxygen in the muscle cells. In this lack of oxygen, lactic acid and energy is produced, and this lactic acid is the cause of cramps in the muscles. Now, whatever energy is generated by the different pathways, it is stored in the form of ATP. And what is ATP? It is adenosine triphosphate. And this ATP is known as the energy currency of the cell. Now, what is the use of this ATP? This ATP is utilized for contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, conduction of nervous impulse, and various endothermic reactions that takes place inside the cell. And every reaction requires a certain amount of ATP for reaction to be carried out. Now we'll see the respiration in both plants and animals. So first of all, respiration in plants. Exchange of gases between plants and atmosphere takes place through stomata. So during day, as you know, carbon dioxide is absorbed from the atmosphere and is utilized in the process of photosynthesis to produce oxygen, which is given out through stomata. But during day also, the cell carry out their metabolic activities where CO2 is produced, carbon dioxide is produced and is also given out through stomata. But the major activity that takes place is the giving out of oxygen that is produced during photosynthesis. So what happens during night? During night, photosynthesis doesn't take place. That means oxygen is not given out during night. But during night, the metabolic activities of the cell continues, and that is why they produce carbon dioxide and which is given out. So at night, carbon dioxide elimination is the major process that takes place in the absence of photosynthesis. You might have heard that one should not sleep under a tree during night, and this is why, because plants do not provide oxygen during night and generally they give out carbon dioxide, and due to which you can feel suffocation if you are going to sleep under the tree during night. First, let us see this video. In this video, the fish is opening and closing the mouth continuously. Now, why does it do so? As you have seen in the video, the fish is closing its mouth and opening its mouth and gradually taking in the water inside it. Now, why does the fish do so? Now, we are going to start this respiration in animals. Now, in the aquatic animals, how do they get oxygen? They get oxygen from the dissolved oxygen present in water. Oxygen is very less soluble in water, and that's why the amount of oxygen that the aquatic animals they get is very less. So they have to breathe faster to get more amount of oxygen. Now, as you can see in the figure, here the fish is taking in water with oxygen, that means dissolved oxygen present in water. Now it passes or force this water to pass through gills. Now in the gills, the oxygen is absorbed into the bloodstream and passes out, the water passes out through the gills. As the amount of oxygen available is very less, they need to breathe faster to get more amount of oxygen. Now we are going to discuss the respiratory system in human beings. As you can see in the figure, you have nasal cavity through which the air enters into the respiratory system. It gradually passes through the pharynx, then trachea, then the trachea is divided into two parts which are called bronchi, and these bronchi are further divided into bronchioles, and finally you have at the end of the bronchioles you have alveoli where the exchange of gases take place, and we are going to see it in details. Now let us discuss this human respiratory system. First comes your nasal passages. In your nasal passages, the nostril contains tiny hairs and mucus. This tiny hair and mucus they help in the filtration of air. Then the air passes through trachea. Trachea has rings of cartilage, and the air passes through the trachea to the lungs. Now, why it has rings of cartilage? Because the air passes will not collapse, and that is why it is provided with rings of cartilage. Next comes bronchi and bronchioles. The trachea is further divided into bronchi inside the lungs, which are further divided into thinner tubes which are called bronchioles, at the end of which alveoli are present. Now the important part is alveoli. Alveoli are the tiny balloon-like structures which are designed so as to increase the surface area for the exchange of gases. Now, these are very tiny structures, but the fact is the amount of alveolar surface that is present inside our lungs, that will cover approximately 5 rooms having the dimension 12 feet by 12 feet. The area is approximately 80 meters square, which is very large. Now students, let us see how does the exchange of gas take place inside the alveoli. Now, the lungs always contain a residual volume of air so that the exchange of gases will be continuous. Now, as it what and the process takes place through the process of diffusion. Now, what happens? Now, diffusion is a spontaneous process that takes place due to the difference in the concentration of or the difference in the concentration. Now in the alveoli, you have oxygen-rich air. That means the amount of oxygen present in alveoli is more, and you have deoxygenated blood which passes through the veins. Now, this oxygen present inside the alveoli will be diffused into the bloodstream, and the deoxygenated blood, which has high concentration of carbon dioxide, will diffuse into the alveoli. Now in this process, the deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated inside the lungs. Now there is a question, how is oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in human beings? Now students, you know that carbon dioxide and oxygen can diffuse, they can diffuse through the cell. By the process of diffusion, they can pass from one cell to another. But it would take 3 years for oxygen molecule to reach from lungs to the toe by the process of diffusion. And that would be a very slow process. So there must be some alternative for this. So what is the alternative for that? And oxygen is also less soluble in water, so it cannot pass through the blood, it dissolves from properly. You have a respiratory pigment in blood. That respiratory pigment is hemoglobin present in RBC. It has high affinity towards oxygen. So oxygen binds with hemoglobin and it passes through the blood to the different parts of the body. Now what about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide, unlike oxygen, is more soluble in water, and so it can be easily transported through blood. Now this completes the process of respiration and we will go for excretion. Now what is excretion? The process by which harmful metabolic wastes and unwanted substances are removed from an organism is called excretion. Now there are different things which can be excreted out from the body. Now what do we excrete? That means let's say we consider human being, what do we excrete? First of all, carbon dioxide through respiration. As you know, carbon dioxide for our body is harmful, and we don't need it, and so it is given out by the process of respiration. Secondly, undigested food. As you know, the undigested food get excreted out through anus as fecal material, dead cells from the skin, and thirdly, urea, uric acid, and excess water from the blood through urine. Now we'll see how does the excretory system of human beings work, in which the waste materials like urea, uric acid and also excess water get removed from our body through urine. Now the excretory system in human being consists of a pair of kidney, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and urethra. Now we'll see it in details in the next picture. The filtration carried out in kidney with the help of nephrons. The nephrons are the structural and functional unit of kidney. Now, every kidney has nearly 10 lakh nephrons inside it, and about 180 liter blood gets purified in kidney in a day. Now you can see here we have two kidneys, a pair of kidneys, and the blood enters into the kidney for purification. And when the wastes are excreted from nephron, they get the urine is formed inside the kidney and it passes to the urinary bladder with the help of ureters. So there are a pair of ureters, and from each kidney a ureter originates and it comes to the urinary bladder. Now from the urinary bladder the urine gets out by the help of urethra. Now let us discuss what is the structure and function of nephron. So how does the filtration take place inside the nephron? Now, nephron helps in excretion of urea, uric acid and excess water from the blood. So first of all, the blood enters into a cup-shaped structure which is known as Bowman's capsule. Now this is the Bowman's capsule. This Bowman's capsule contains glomerulus, which is nothing but it is composed of blood capillaries. So when blood enters through this glomerulus, large molecules like proteins and other blood cells, they get directly filtered and they go back into the blood. So the filtrate produced from the glomerulus has this water, glucose, amino acid, salt, urea, uric acid, and which moves down to the nephron. So what happens next? This nephron has different parts. From the Bowman's capsule, it enters into the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. Now here, the selective absorption of water, glucose, amino acid and salt take place. So whatever is remaining is urea, uric acid and some amount of water. According to the need of the body, the water get reabsorbed from this loop of Henle and distal convoluted tubules. As you can see in the figure, from the distal convoluted tubule, the amount of excess water which is not absorbed in the body, along with urea and uric acid, released into a common collecting duct. This common collecting duct finally releases those materials into ureter. Now, there might be a question, how is the amount of urine produced regulated in the body? Now, listen, students, you might have observed whenever you are there inside the class, you drink water regularly, and every 1 or 2 period you need to go out to urinate. But suppose you might have ever watched that whenever any function is going on and or a meeting or a class which extends up to 2 or 3 hours and you forget to drink, then you don't need to urinate. Now what happens then? Why don't you need to urinate then? Now, whenever you don't drink water regularly, there will be a shortage of water in your body. Now, whatever water you will drink, that means it will get reabsorbed into the body, due to which the urine produced will be less. Now, as the urine produced will be less, you will take more time to urine. You will take more time for next urination. Now, whenever the urine is getting stored in the urinary bladder, how do you know you need to urinate? Now, when the urinary bladder is full with urine, it expands and a nervous impulse is created which gives you the feeling to urinate. That was all about excretion in human being and human excretory system. Now, you might be thinking, what do plants excrete? Now, there is a question in the book, what are the different ways through which plant excretes materials? It is an in-text question in the book. Now there are different methods in which it excretes material. First one is oxygen produced during photosynthesis and carbon dioxide is produced during cellular metabolism get excreted in respiration through stomata. The first one, oxygen and carbon dioxide are getting removed from the plant through stomata. Second one is excess water. The excess water is removed through transpiration, and you know transpiration is the process of evaporation that takes place from the leaf surface. Third one, it gets rid of some dead cells through the dry leaves. Now you might have seen that dead cells are present in plants everywhere, but some of the leaves they fall off when they get dried. Next, some plant waste material are stored in the vacuoles. But you know that plant cells have large vacuoles. It may also store the waste materials, and the waste material can be stored in vacuoles of the leaves that fall off. Some waste products are stored as resins and gums. So these are the different ways through which plants excrete materials. So students, in the chapter life process, you have only transported the topic transportation which has left, and I'm going to complete it in the 1 or 2 classes. So please comment which new chapter you are going to read from physics, whether that is your light or electricity. Please comment in the comment section. Hope you like the videos. Stay in touch, keep learning. Thank you.